Lie down in a comfortable position. Feel how your bed supports you. Notice every point where your body touches the surface. Your head, shoulders, back, lower back, hips, legs, feet. Each point is sinking a little deeper into the bed, becoming a little heavier. Slowly close your eyes. Your eyelids are very heavy. You're now beginning a journey from the outer world inward. Take a deep breath. Feel the air flowing in through your nose, cool air passing through your nostrils. Notice your chest expanding, your belly rising, your lungs filling with air. Now slowly release. Let the air out through your mouth or nose. Feel your body relaxing, your shoulders dropping, your jaw loosening once more. A deep breath. In through your nose. Hold it. 2-3 seconds. Now release. Let go of all tension. The tiredness of the day, the stress, the thoughts. Release everything with your breath. And one more time. A deep, slow breath. Your belly expanding. Your chest opening. Hold. Now release. A long, slow exhale. Your body relaxing even more. Tonight we're going on a journey together toward one of Carl Gustav Jung's most important discoveries. This journey will be both restful and transformative. It will introduce you to a part of yourself you haven't yet known. This part is what Jung called the shadow. One of the most mysterious, most powerful, and perhaps most frightening corners of the human psyche. But don't worry, this is a perfect exploration before sleep. Because in the darkness of night, our unconscious already becomes active. In our dreams, our shadow speaks, dances, sends us messages. Tonight, we're going to consciously listen to it, understand it, and perhaps make peace with it. Continue breathing in your natural rhythm without forcing. Just breathe in and out. With each breath, you're becoming calmer. Your mind is clearing like ripples around a stone dropped in water. Thoughts are passing, leaving. You're not following them, just watching, releasing. They come, they go. They don't matter. Your body is now very heavy. Your arms and legs like lead. No energy to move, and no need to. You're just resting. You're safe. You're comfortable. You don't need to do anything. Just being here in this moment, resting, is enough. Now imagine with me. Your eyes are closed, but your mind's eye is opening. You're looking with an inner vision. Imagine yourself in a space, a library, but not an ordinary library. This is an old, magnificent library filled with wooden shelves as large as an attic. High ceiling decorated with wooden beams. Walls lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves. Thousands of books on each shelf. Old volumes, new editions, leather-bound manuscripts. This is in Zurich, Switzerland. Carl Jung's personal study, the mid-1950s. Jung is old now, but his mind is still sharp, his eyes still deep. Through the window you can see Lake Zurich. Outside, evening is falling. The last rays of sunset draw a golden path across the lake. A soft mist hovers over the water in shades of pink and purple. Inside there's a warm atmosphere. A large stone fireplace in one corner of the room, the fire crackling softly. You can watch the dance of the flames. In the air of the room there's a faint scent. Burning wood, old books, perhaps a hint of tobacco. In front of the fireplace is a leather armchair, old, worn, but comfortable. You're sitting in that armchair. Feel the warmth of the leather. Your body sinking into the chair, the backrest supporting you. Your legs comfortable. Your hands resting on the armrests. Across from you is a large oak desk. On the desk is an old leather-bound book. The book is large, heavy. Its cover is dark brown leather, corners worn, used. On the cover, written in gold letters, confronting the shadow, the art of self-integration. Breathe, relax. You're picking up the book. It's truly heavy. The pages are yellowed, somewhat fragile, but filled with knowledge, insights, the wisdom of years. Even the book's smell is special. Old paper, ink, time. This book isn't just a book. It's a roadmap for your inner journey. Now we're going to open this book together, and we're going to explore one of Carl Jung's most important concepts, the shadow. Not just theoretically, but personally. You're going to meet your own shadow, look at it, understand it, and perhaps embrace it. Breathe, breathe out. When you're ready, mentally turn the first page of the book. As the page turns, there's a soft sound, and the first page opens. The page isn't blank. In the center, in handwriting, one of Jung's quotes, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is." Read the words. Think about them, but don't force it. Just listen to the echo of the words in your mind. What feeling do they evoke? Curiosity? Fear? Interest? Breathe. A deep breath. Release. You're ready. The journey begins. You're looking at the first chapter of the book. Title: The Shadow, the Unknown Self. Breathe. Rest. Your mind is open. Your body relaxed. Carl Gustav Jung was born in Switzerland in 1875. He studied medicine, became a psychiatrist. He worked with Sigmund Freud for a while, but then their paths diverged because Jung developed a deeper, more mystical, more holistic understanding of psychology than Freud. One of Jung's most important contributions is the school he called analytical psychology, and at the center of this school is the concept of shadow. Breathe. Breathe out. According to Jung, the shadow is the aspects of our personality that have been pushed into the unconscious, repressed, denied. But this doesn't mean just bad things. The shadow is everything we believe isn't accepted by society, or that we believe doesn't fit our ideal image. Jung says, the shadow is the sum of personality traits that ego consciousness refuses to accept. This definition appears in Jung's 1951 work, Aion. Jung wrote this book toward the end of his life, bringing together all his experiences and wisdom. Breathe, rest, just listen. So what exactly is the shadow? Let's give an example to understand this. Think, what were you like as a child? Who were you really? Maybe you were very energetic. Maybe you'd paint walls, make a mess, constantly in motion. Maybe you were very emotional. You'd cry about everything, when you were sad, angry, even when very happy. Maybe you were very curious. You'd constantly ask questions. Why, how, what for? Maybe you were rebellious. You didn't want to follow rules, wanted to chart your own path. But over time, society started giving you certain messages. Your family, your school, your friends, your teachers, television, books, your culture, all telling you what you should be. Don't make so much noise. The neighbors can hear. Don't cry, be strong. Big kids don't cry. Don't ask so many questions. Don't be naughty. Quiet children are good children. Nobody likes noisy children. You must always succeed. Failure is unacceptable. Always be kind. Getting angry is shameful. Breathe. Remember these messages. Maybe you received them too. Maybe in different forms, but you received them. You received these messages. And slowly, very slowly, without realizing it, you began to hide certain parts of yourself. Because those parts of you weren't accepted, weren't approved of. Maybe were even punished. You hid your energetic side. You became a quiet, calm child. But inside, that energy didn't disappear. It was just suppressed. You hid your emotional side. You no longer cried, tried not to show it. But inside, those emotions were there. They just became invisible. You hid your curious side. You no longer asked questions, became compliant, obedient. But inside, did that curiosity die? No, it just became silent. This is how the shadow is born. Breathe. A deep breath. Feel your body. Relaxed, safe, resting. Jung says when explaining this process, the formation of the shadow is an inevitable byproduct of the education process. As the child adapts to society, they must sacrifice a part of themselves. This is something he said in a 1954 seminar. Jung was living in his tower in Bollingen at that time. He had retreated there, close to nature, alone with his inner world. So the shadow is a natural consequence of living in society. Everyone has a shadow. This is normal, even healthy. Because living completely without limits, unfiltered, would create social chaos. If a child does whatever they want, society doesn't function. Rules are necessary. Boundaries are necessary. But the problem is, what's in the shadow doesn't disappear, doesn't vanish. It just becomes invisible, withdraws into the unconscious. And from there, in ways we don't notice, it affects our behaviors, our emotions, our relationships, our decisions. Breathe. A deep breath. Release. Jung's another definition. The shadow is the sum of personality parts that ego consciousness doesn't recognize, doesn't accept, and the more it's denied, the more powerful and autonomous it becomes. Modern psychological research also confirms. Jung. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology in 2018 showed systematic differences between how people perceive themselves and how others perceive them. Researchers worked with nearly 1,000 participants, and they found that people systematically notice their own negative traits less. They tend to ignore their own flaws. This is exactly how the shadow works. Another study from Harvard University, published in 2020, researchers measured people's unconscious reactions. With special tests, they identified traits people didn't want to accept. And they found that these traits strongly influenced people's behaviors. But people weren't aware of this. Sometimes our positive qualities can also fall into the shadow. How? Let's give an example. Maybe as a child you were very creative. You'd paint, write stories. But your family wanted you to be practical, logical, realistic. Art isn't work, they said. Be an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. And you began to suppress your creativity. Then your creativity fell into the shadow. Or maybe you were very brave. You like taking risks, but your family always taught you to be cautious. Be careful, be safe, don't take risks. And you suppressed your courage. Then your courage fell into the shadow. So shadow doesn't mean bad. Shadow means unaccepted. Breathe. Do you understand? This is a very important point. Second, the shadow is universal but personal, meaning everyone has a shadow. There isn't a single person in the world without a shadow. But the content of each person's shadow is different. What did you suppress? Your anger? Your weakness? Your creativity? Your ambition? Your passions? This depends on your story, your family, your culture, your experiences. A child growing up in a Turkish family and a child growing up in an American family may have different shadows. A child growing up in a conservative family and a child growing up in a liberal family may have different shadows. The shadow is a universal concept, but a personal experience. Breathe, breathe out. Third, the shadow is dynamic, meaning it can change, transform. It's not static, not fixed. When you notice and accept a trait in your shadow, that trait is no longer in the shadow. It becomes part of your consciousness. Jung calls this integrating the shadow. For example, if you realize your anger is in the shadow and you accept your anger, anger is no longer in the shadow. Now it's an emotion you can consciously manage. This is a very powerful concept because it means the shadow can be changed. You can work with your shadow throughout your life. Breathe, relax. Your body is heavy. Your mind is calm. Now I'm going to ask you a personal question. Don't think too much. Just notice the first answer that comes to your mind. Don't analyze it, don't question it. Just observe. Which emotion or trait do you have the most difficulty expressing? Anger? Is it hard to tell someone you're angry? Jealousy? Do you feel jealous of someone but never admit it? Weakness? Is asking for help, saying I can't, very difficult? Need? Is telling someone you need them shameful? Selfishness? Does putting your own desires before others create guilt? Passion? Do you control your desires, your wants, your enthusiasms? Breathe. What came to mind? The first thing, don't judge. Don't feel guilty. Just notice. This is probably part of your shadow. Because the shadow consists of what we hide most. Breathe, breathe out, relax. Jung has a very famous quote. He said it at a conference in 1945. To become conscious of the shadow is a considerable moral achievement. Because it requires recognizing one's dark sides. And this is the first test of morality. This takes courage, honesty. Looking at yourself, truly looking, isn't easy, but it also requires forgiveness. You must be compassionate toward yourself. When discovering your shadow, you shouldn't judge yourself, because the shadow doesn't make you bad. The shadow makes you human. Breathe. Your body is warm, comfortable, peaceful. You're sinking deeper into the chair. Now we're going deeper. We're going to explore how the shadow forms, what psychological and scientific processes shape it, and how your personal shadow emerged. But don't rush. We have time, all night. Just listen, feel, and allow yourself. Mentally, you're opening the next chapter of the book. As you turn the page, that familiar paper sound comes. A new chapter begins. Title: The Birth of the Shadow, From Childhood to Adulthood. Breathe. Be calm. Your body is relaxed. Every human being, when born, is a whole, a perfect wholeness. The baby hasn't been divided yet. They don't yet distinguish between good and bad. They don't yet have concepts of acceptable and unacceptable. The baby just feels, needs, responds. When hungry, they cry. When comfortable, they smile. When scared, they scream. No filter, no mask, just pure, natural, authentic emotions and reactions. This is what Jung calls the original self state. Not yet divided, not yet fragmented. Breathe. A deep breath. Feel your body, but over time, very slowly but inevitably, something begins to happen. The child realizes that some behaviors bring love, some bring rejection. Some emotions are approved, some are silenced. Some traits are praised, some are punished. And the child begins to learns very quickly, because their life depends on it. For a baby, losing parental love is an existential threat. Breathe out. Just listen. Let's explain with concrete examples, because this is everyone's story. Maybe the details are different, but the essence is the same. Example 1, the anger shadow. Imagine a small child, 3 or 4 years old. The child is at the playground. They have a toy car, but another child comes and takes the toy. The child gets very angry. This is natural. Anger is a healthy emotion that shows our boundaries have been violated. What does the child do? They scream, they cry, maybe try to hit, maybe try to take the toy back. This is a natural reaction. The child hasn't yet learned to control their emotions. They just feel and react. But what do the adults around them say? Mother comes running. "Don't do that," she says. "Bad child. It's shameful to be angry." Or father intervenes. "Men don't act like this. Calm down. Control yourself." Or the teacher. "This is school. Getting angry is forbidden. You're big now. You shouldn't behave like this." The child learns something. Very clear, very deep. Anger is bad. Anger makes me bad. If I get angry, I won't be loved. I'll be rejected. I'll be alone. And from that moment on, the child begins to hide their anger, tries to suppress it, tries to ignore it. I'm not angry. I'm good. I'm calm, but the anger doesn't go away. It just goes down, into the darkness, into the shadow. Breathe out. Just listen. Years pass. The child grows, now an adult, and still can't express their anger. Even when angry at someone, says it's nothing, it doesn't matter. Even when someone treats them unfairly, doesn't speak up. Because anger is in the shadow, in a forbidden zone. But anger is there, deep down, accumulating. And one day, in a moment of stress, a moment of tiredness, it explodes, out of control, disproportionate. This isn't me, the person says. But it is them too, just their shadow. Breathe. Does this sound familiar? Example 2, the emotionality shadow. Imagine another child. This child is very sensitive, very emotional, cries about everything. When they hear beautiful music, read a sad story, get mad at a friend, tears always come. This is the child's nature, a deeply feeling soul. But what does society say? Especially if the child is male. Boys don't cry. Be strong. Toughen up. Don't be so sensitive. Real men aren't this emotional. Or even if female, you're too dramatic. Don't cry about everything. Control yourself. People won't take you seriously. The child learns emotionality is weakness. Crying is shameful. Feeling is dangerous. And slowly they begin to hide that sensitive side, suppress their emotions. A mask forms on their face. I'm fine. I'm strong. Nothing affects me, but inside emotions exist. They're just not visible. Living in the shadow, years pass. The child becomes an adult. Now never cries, never shows emotions. People call them so strong. But inside there's an emptiness. They feel disconnected from themselves. Because their emotional side is in the shadow. Ignored, breathe, a deep breath, release. Jung when explaining the formation of the shadow, says as the child internalizes society's value judgments, they label certain parts of themselves as ego-alien, meaning foreign to the self. These parts are pushed into the unconscious and form the shadow. This is from a 1948 article by Jung. Jung was researching the shadow topic very deeply at that time, working with his own patients and seeing that everyone had a shadow. Breathe, relax. Modern developmental psychology also supports and details this process. Diana Fosha, an American psychotherapist, developed emotion-focused experiential therapy. Her research shows that children learn emotional regulation skills from adults. If a child's emotion is constantly rejected, the child codes that emotion as unacceptable and suppresses it. Richard Schwartz's internal family systems model says something similar. Schwartz says the child exiles their own parts, meaning they send a part of themselves into internal exile. The shadow is this exile. A study published in Developmental Psychology in 2016 showed that children's tendency to suppress emotions was directly related to parental responses. If parents of children expressing emotions are supportive, children learn to manage their emotions healthily. But if parents are rejecting, children learn to suppress emotions. Breathe out. But the shadow doesn't only form in childhood. It's a lifelong process. Example 3. Shadow formation in adolescence. Adolescence is very critical because during this period social acceptance is very important. The adolescent now wants not just the family's approval, but also the peer groups. Say an adolescent has a very calm, introverted character. They like reading books, listening to music, being alone, but their friend group is very social, extroverted, party-going. What does the adolescent do? They begin to hide their calm side because they think you need to be extroverted to be cool, and that calm, introverted side goes into the shadow, or vice versa. An adolescent is very energetic, joking, fun, but their friend group is very serious, academic, success-focused. The adolescent begins to hide their fun side because they think you need to be serious, breathe, relax. Example 4. Shadow formation in adulthood. Shadow formation continues in adulthood too. At work, we take on certain roles. Being professional, responsible, reliable, punctual. These are valuable traits. The business world demands them. But sometimes while playing these roles, we ignore other parts of ourselves. Maybe you're very serious at work, always professional, always controlled, but inside there's a playful spirit. You want to joke, have fun, be spontaneous, but you don't allow it because you think it's not professional. And that playful side goes into the shadow. Or maybe in your relationship you've taken on a certain role. Always supportive, always self-sacrificing, always giving. But inside sometimes you want to receive too. Sometimes be selfish, sometimes think of yourself first. But you don't allow it. You think good spouses, partners don't act like this. And that selfish side goes into the shadow. Breathe. A deep breath. Your body heavy, your mind calm, all these suppressed sides form your shadow. And the bigger the shadow grows, the more powerful it becomes. The longer it's suppressed, the more intense it becomes. Jung has a very famous quote, "The shadow is the more unconscious it is, the blacker and denser it is." If a vice can be brought to consciousness, there is always a chance to correct it. Moreover, it is then subject to the influence of the other parts of the personality. But if it is repressed and isolated in the unconscious, it can never be corrected. This is very important. Jung says suppressing the shadow strengthens it, but making the shadow conscious weakens it, brings it under your control. Breathe out. So how does the shadow show itself? If the shadow is unconscious, how do we notice it? Jung says there are 3 main ways the shadow shows itself. First, projection. We see the traits in our shadow in others. This is a very important mechanism. We'll examine this in great detail soon. Second, uncontrolled outbursts. In stressful times when we're tired at unexpected moments, the shadow suddenly emerges. You're normally a calm person, but suddenly you get uncontrollably angry. Why? Because anger has accumulated in the shadow and exploded. You're normally very organized, orderly, but suddenly you drop everything, create chaos. Why? Because your chaotic side has been suppressed in the shadow and is seeking freedom. Third, dreams. Jung says dreams are where the shadow speaks. How do you see yourself in your dreams? What do you do? What figures appear before you? What emotions do you experience? These are symbols, messages from your shadow. Breathe. Your mind is calm, your body relaxed. Now I'm going to ask you personal questions. Think about them without judging, just noticing. You don't need to tell anyone the answers. This is just for you, to know yourself. Question 1. In the last year, in what situations did you feel out of control? In what moments did you think, this isn't me? Maybe you suddenly got very angry, then were surprised at yourself. Maybe you felt very jealous in a situation, then were ashamed. Maybe you went extremely defensive, then wondered, why did I do that? Maybe for a moment you felt very insecure, very weak, then immediately hid it. These moments are visits from your shadow. Your shadow is calling to you, I'm here. Do you see me? Breathe. Breathe out. Accept. Don't judge. Question 2. What often happens in your dreams? What themes repeat? Maybe you're running away. Maybe someone is chasing you. You might be running from your shadow. Maybe you're naked. Everyone sees you. Fear of being maskless, vulnerable. Maybe you're losing things. Fear of losing control. Maybe you're flying, you're free. Maybe freedom is in your shadow. You feel restricted in daily life. Your dreams are your shadow's language. Breathe. Relax. Jung says, without the integration of the shadow, there is no real self-knowledge. If a person only accepts their light side, they are half a being. To be a complete human, they must also embrace their dark side. And modern neuroscience also supports. Jung. Research by Dr. Srini Pillai from Harvard. University shows that our unconscious mind processes 30,000 times more information than our conscious mind, meaning the large part of our psyche is in the unconscious, in the shadow. If we don't know our shadow, we haven't known a large part of our psyche. Knowing the shadow is reclaiming that power, bringing back that potential. Breathe, relax, you're safe. Now we're moving to the next stage, perhaps the most important, most powerful mechanism of the shadow. Projection, meaning seeing our shadow in others. This is a very important section, because projection is one of the most powerful tools for recognizing our shadow. Chapter 4, Projection Encountering the Shadow in Others. 42-60 minutes. Mentally, you're turning a new page of the book. The page opens. Title, Projection, the Mirror Mechanism. Breathe, rest. Your body completely surrendered to the chair. One of Jung's most important, most revolutionary discoveries is the projection mechanism. Projection is seeing the traits we don't accept in ourselves and people outside. We can simply say, whatever is in the shadow we see in others. Breathe. A deep breath. Release. How does this work? Let's explain with detailed examples, because projection is everywhere in our daily lives. Example 1. Anger projection. Say you're someone who never expresses anger. In your childhood, anger wasn't accepted. You were told, be kind, calm down, don't get angry. Anger is bad. And you buried your anger in your shadow. Now you think, I'm not an angry person. I'm always calm, controlled. Now you're encountering someone in your life. Maybe a work colleague, maybe a family member. And this person gets angry often. Maybe raises their voice, maybe criticizes a bit, maybe acts somewhat aggressively. Actually, this person is just expressing their emotions, maybe even healthily. But what's your reaction? You probably get very uncomfortable. That person really irritates you. Maybe you get angry at them. Maybe you label them as uncontrolled, rude, irresponsible, childish. Maybe you avoid them. You say this person is so problematic, but what's really happening? That person is showing you the anger in your shadow. Because you can't express your anger, you can't tolerate their anger. Because they remind you of this suppressed part inside you. They're living what you want to be but can't, freely expressing emotions. And this bothers you. Because deep down you also want to get angry. You also want to raise your voice, protect your boundaries, say no, but you don't allow yourself. And that person's freedom hurts your restriction. Breathe. Just listen. Don't be defensive. This is a hard truth, but a powerful insight. Jung says, everything in the shadow is projected outward, and everything projected is the fundamental cause of problems in our relationships. This is from Jung's 1946 work, The Psychology of the Transference. Jung says there, most conflicts between people are because of projection. We see our own shadows in others and fight with them. Breathe, breathe out. Example 2. Say you're very self-sacrificing. You always think of others. You always give, always help. You never put your own needs forward. Because as a child you received the don't be selfish message a lot. You learned good people aren't selfish. And your own needs went into the shadow. Now you're meeting someone. This person states their own needs. They say, I want this. They say, I need this. Maybe sometimes they say, no, I don't want to do this. Actually, this person is just setting healthy boundaries, valuing themselves. But what's your reaction? You probably get uncomfortable. You say, this person is so selfish. You say, they only think of themselves. Maybe you get angry. Maybe you criticize them, but what's really happening? That person is reminding you of the needs in your shadow. You can't state your own needs, but they can. And this bothers you, because deep down you also want to think of yourself first. You also want to sometimes say no, sometimes say I want, but you don't allow yourself. And that person's freedom makes your restriction painful. Breathe, relax. Jung says very clearly, without the projection of the shadow, neither hate nor admiration can exist. Both are expressions of unrecognized traits within us. This is a very deep statement, meaning our intense feelings toward others, hate, discomfort, admiration, jealousy, can all be projection. All can be related to our shadow. Breathe, breathe out. But projection isn't only with negative traits. It also appears with positive traits. This is called golden projection. Example 3, creativity projection. Say you've never used your creativity. You always made practical, logical, safe choices. You were told art isn't work, be realistic. And your creative side went into the shadow. Now you're encountering someone very creative in your life. An artist, a musician, a writer, a free spirit. This person creates, expresses, takes risks every day. What are you feeling? Maybe admiration. You're saying, wow, what an amazing person. Maybe jealousy. You're saying, I wish I could be like that. Maybe idealization. You're giving that person excessive value, seeing them as perfect. Maybe excessive interest. You're following that person, wanting to be with them. This is also projection. You're seeing the potential inside yourself in someone else, and you're overreacting to them. Breathe. Relax. Jung says, everything we see with admiration in someone else is actually our own potential. If it truly wasn't in us, we couldn't even see it. What does this mean? This means that trait you admire, creativity, courage, freedom, whatever, is also in you. Maybe sleeping, maybe hidden, maybe under fear, but it's there. If it truly wasn't in you, you couldn't even notice it. You couldn't see it. You'd be neutral toward it. But if you're giving an intense reaction, admiration, jealousy, desire, this means that trait is also in you, just fallen into shadow. And the goal of shadow work is to bring back that trait. To claim it, breathe a deep breath. Your body heavy, your mind calm, modern. Psychological research also confirms the projection mechanism. A study published in the Journal of Personality in 2015 showed that the traits people notice most in others are related to suppressed traits in their own personalities. Researchers compared participants' self-perceptions and how they perceived others. And they found that people noticed traits in others much more that they didn't accept in themselves. Another study from Northwestern University, published in 2018, this study showed that when people saw their own negative traits in others more often, they experienced more conflict. So projection leads to relationship problems. Breathe, breathe out. Jung has a famous quote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's why understanding the projection mechanism is so important, because this mechanism gives us a key to discover our shadow. Every discomfort is a clue. Every admiration is a potential. Every intense reaction is a separation from the shadow. Breathe. Breathe out. Now we're going to do practical exercises for you. Mental exercises. Just think, observe. You don't need to tell anyone. This is just for you. Exercise 1. Discomfort analysis. Think of a person in your life who irritates you the most. This could be a family member, a parent, a sibling, a spouse, or a work colleague, or a friend, or just someone you know. Who it is doesn't matter. Just someone who, when you think of them, you feel discomfort. Visualize that person in your mind. Remember their face, their voice, their behaviors. Now ask yourself, what exactly about this person bothers me? Be very specific. What behavior? What trait? Maybe they act very selfishly, always thinking of themselves. Maybe very emotional, crying about everything, making drama. Maybe very disorganized, not organized at all, unplanned. Maybe very controlling, wants to control everything. Maybe very passive, never takes initiative, always waiting. Maybe very ambitious, constantly wanting more, never satisfied. Maybe very critical, constantly criticizing, complaining. Whatever it is, define that trait clearly. Name it, express it in one word. Breathe, breathe out. What was your first answer? Now ask yourself the hardest question. With deep honesty, is this trait truly not in me at all? Really? Maybe not in the same way. Maybe not at the same intensity. Maybe in different situations. But really not at all. For example, if that person is very selfish, are you really not selfish at all? Maybe in very subtle ways, maybe in very hidden ways, but really not at all. Maybe you help others, but actually for approval. Isn't that also selfishness? But very hidden selfishness. Or if that person is very emotional, are you really not emotional at all? Maybe you don't show emotions, but don't you feel them? Maybe that person's emotionality bothers you because you have emotions too, but don't allow them. Or if that person is very controlling, do you really not control at all? Maybe you control in other ways, maybe in passive-aggressive ways, maybe by controlling yourself. Breathe. This is a difficult question. The ego resists, says, no, I'm not like that. But be honest. Look with deep honesty. Because Jung says if a trait isn't in us at all, it doesn't bother us. Only things that are in us, but we don't accept, bother us. This is a very deep insight. Because this means the people who bother us most are actually our best teachers. They show us our shadow. They're our mirror. Breathe. Breathe out. Relax. This discovery might be uncomfortable, but enlightening. Exercise 2. Admiration. Analysis. Now let's look at positive projection. Think of a person in your life you greatly admire. A real person, someone you know, not a distant celebrity. Someone in your life. What exactly do you admire about that person? Maybe their courage, living fearlessly, taking risks. Maybe their freedom, living as if they don't have to conform to anyone's expectations. Maybe their creativity, constantly creating new things, expressing. Maybe their calmness, nothing seems to shake them. Maybe their strength, very strong as if nothing affects them. Maybe their frankness, saying everything honestly, not hiding. Define that trait. Name it. Breathe. Rest. Now ask yourself, is this trait not in me at all? Or is it in me but I don't use it, don't express it, don't allow it? Because Jung says everything we see with admiration in someone else is actually our own potential. If it truly wasn't in us, we couldn't even see it. Think. Don't you feel that courage? Maybe very deep down, but is it there? Don't you want that freedom? Maybe very hidden, but is the desire there? Isn't that creativity in you? Maybe in small ways it's there. In a hobby, a thought, a dream. Breathe, breathe out. This is your shadow potential. That trait you admire is also in you, just undeveloped, just suppressed, just not allowed. And one goal of shadow work is to bring back that potential, to claim it. Instead of saying this isn't me, saying this can also be me. Breathe, relax, your body very heavy, your mind very calm. Jung's another famous quote, "When we withdraw our projections, we enrich our own essence." What does this mean? It means when we accept the traits we load onto others in ourselves, we become richer, more whole. If we see that bothersome trait in ourselves and integrate it, that trait no longer bothers us. Because there's no more projection, it's now part of our essence. If we notice and develop that trait we admire in ourselves, we no longer need to search for it in someone else, because it's now in us. Breathe, a deep, comfortable breath. Your body warm, relaxed. Now we're going deeper. You're going to meet your own personal shadow directly. We're going to do guided inner exploration with techniques Jung used, but don't rush. We have time. You're closing the book. Now it's time to move completely from theory to practice. Time to come face to face with your own shadow. Breathe, a deep, comfortable breath. Your eyes are already closed. Your body relaxed, completely sunk into the chair. Your mind calm but awake. Now you're going on an inner journey to meet your own shadow, to look at it, to listen to it, and perhaps to embrace it. Imagine Carl Jung is with you. He's there too, beside you, sitting in his large leather chair, a wise light in his eyes, a safe, supportive, non-judging presence. You're safe with him. Are you ready? He asks softly, his voice deep, calm. You nod. Yes, I'm ready. Breathe. Breathe out. Jung smiles. Wonderful. Now imagine with me, and he begins to narrate. Hear his voice in your mind. Imagine yourself on a path, a forest path. The path at first is bright, sunny. Sunlight filters through the trees, making golden spots on the ground. Trees are green, leaves rustling lightly, birds singing. In the distance, a stream sound. The air is clean, cool, refreshing. Imagine this path. See yourself there. You're walking. Feel your steps, the ground beneath your feet, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the coolness of the air. This path, Jung says, is your conscious mind, the self you know, the self you live in during the day, your roles, your masks, your social self. Familiar, safe, bright. You're walking on this path, comfortable, familiar. A known path. Breathe, relax. But then, Jung says, the path divides. And you see, ahead of you the path splits in two. On the left, the same bright path continues. Sunny, open, familiar. On the right, there's a different trail. Trees are thicker, light is less. The trail is somewhat unclear, somewhat mysterious. Not dark, but less bright. Unknown, Jung says. The left path continues to the self you know. The right path goes to your unconscious, to your shadow, to the sides of you that you don't know. Can you go there? You hesitate. There's some fear. Some worry. You're thinking, what if I find something there? What if there's something terrible? Jung takes your hand. I'm with you, he says. You're safe. And I promise you what you'll find there isn't terrible. Just unknown. And the unknown always seems frightening at first. But actually the greatest gifts come from there. Breathe. Breathe out. Gather your courage. And you step onto the right trail. Jung beside you. At first you don't notice much. Just a bit less light, trees a bit closer, sound a bit quieter. But as you walk, the atmosphere begins to change. The air a bit cooler, a bit more humid, the ground a bit softer, sounds fewer. Bird sounds have decreased. Just your own breath sound and your footsteps. Trees are bigger, older, trunks thick, bark cracked. Some trees very old, maybe hundreds of years old. These, Jung says, are the trees of your past. Each represents a memory, an experience, a suppressed emotion. You continue walking. The trail deepens. Now very little sunlight, but not dark either. A dim light in gray-blue tones. Mysterious but beautiful. And then you see something ahead. At the end of the trail, there's a clearing. And in that clearing, there's a figure. Standing with their back turned, motionless. Jung says, there, this is your shadow. Approach. Don't be afraid. They won't harm you, because they're also you. You approach slowly. Your heartbeat has quickened a bit, but Jung is beside you. You're safe. breathe, relax, approach step by step. The figure is still motionless, waiting for you it seems. Finally you reach them. You come beside them. Now, Jung says, touch them gently on their shoulder and ask them to turn to you. You extend your hand. You touch the figure's shoulder gently. The figure pauses for a moment, then slowly turns to you, and you're surprised because the face is familiar, but at the same time strange like you. But a rejected, forgotten, shadow-left version of you. Maybe looks younger, maybe your childhood self, maybe adolescent, maybe emotions on the face. Anger, sadness, fear, longing, passion. Jung whispers, look at them, into their eyes. What do you see? Breathe, just observe. Don't judge what's on your shadow's face. What emotion? Maybe anger, long suppressed anger. Unspoken, unexpressed, maybe sadness. Unshed tears. Unmourned losses, maybe tiredness. Exhaustion from always being strong, always enduring. Maybe desire for freedom. Desire to escape from rules, expectations, roles. Maybe a playful child. A child who just wants to play, have fun, not be serious. Maybe a lonely soul. Unseen, misunderstood, left alone. Whatever you see, allow it. Don't reject. Just see, breathe, breathe out. Jung says, now ask them questions, talk, listen. And you're looking at your shadow, asking the first question, who are you? Your shadow looks at you, maybe doesn't speak immediately, maybe just a feeling comes, maybe a word, maybe an image, maybe an emotion. Listen, don't rush, allow silence. Maybe your shadow says, I'm your anger, the anger you've always suppressed, ignored, been ashamed of. Maybe says, I'm your child self, who wants to play, have fun, but always has to be serious. Maybe says, I'm your weakness, the fragility, sensitivity you've always tried to hide. Maybe says, I'm your passion, the desires, wants, dreams you've always controlled, suppressed. Maybe says, I'm your freedom, the freedom you want to escape to but can't find courage. Whatever they say, listen, accept. Say, yes, I see you. Breathe, a deep breath. Second question, why are you here in the dark? Why are you in the shadow? What happened to you? Your shadow answers, maybe not in words, but with a memory, a feeling, an image, maybe a memory comes. From your childhood, what happened when you got angry? Do you remember? Maybe your mother got angry. Bad child. Don't act like that. Maybe your father looked sternly. Men don't act like this. Maybe your teacher punished. You're so naughty. And that moment, that experience taught you something. This side of me isn't accepted. I must hide this side. Or what happened when you played? Maybe you were told, grow up, be serious, be responsible. Life isn't a game. And you learned playing is wrong. Having fun is childish. Or when you showed weakness, don't cry. Be strong, be resilient. Nobody will love you like this. Or when you stated your own desires, don't be selfish. Think of others. Each message formed your shadow. Each rejection added a piece to your shadow. Breathe, breathe out. This might be sad, but necessary. Understanding is necessary. Jung says the shadow isn't something to be blamed. Neither the child is guilty nor the parents. The shadow is an inevitable part of social existence. But it's possible to understand it, transform it. Breathe, relax. Third question, what do you want from me? What do you want to tell me? Your shadow looks at you, something in their eyes, maybe longing, maybe hope, maybe just desire to be seen, and they answer, listen. Maybe says, I just want to be seen, to be accepted. I'm also part of you. Maybe says, I want to be able to get angry sometimes. You don't always have to be meek, kind. Maybe says, I want to play, laugh, joke, be light. Life isn't just about responsibility. Maybe says, I want to be able to be fragile, to be able to cry, be tired, have weak moments. You don't always have to be strong. Maybe says, I want to live my desires, my passions, wants, dreams. Life isn't just control and discipline. Maybe says, I want to be free. Free from expectations, roles, masks. I just want to be me. Whatever they say, listen. Note inside, important, breathe, Relax, your body heavy, your mind open. Jung says, now say something to your shadow. Make a promise. Make a commitment. You're looking at your shadow. For the first time, you're really looking. Not with fear, with curiosity. Not rejecting, accepting, and you say, I see you. I know you now. You're also me. You're part of me. And I won't reject you anymore. I won't hide you anymore. I accept you. I embrace you. Your shadow looks at you. And for the first time, there's a smile on their face. Slight, but real. Relieved. Finally seen, finally heard. And at that moment, something happens. Your shadow slowly approaches, opens their arms. And you open your arms too and you embrace. Two separate parts coming together. Breathe. A deep breath. Feel it. In this embrace, there's integration. There's healing. There's transformation. The shadow is no longer separate. Part of you. Integrated, accepted. Maybe you feel it. A warmth in your chest. An expansion. As if you've become more whole. As if you've reclaimed a part of yourself. Jung smiles. Standing a bit away from you, but looks happy. There, he says. This is integration. Not rejecting the shadow. Not fighting. Just accepting, embracing, and this is so simple yet so profound. Breathe. Breathe out. Now, Jung says. With your shadow, we're returning to the forest path. And you're returning. But this time you're not alone. Your shadow is beside you. Hand in hand. No longer in darkness, together with you. You're walking back from the trail. And you notice the trail is no longer so dark. Because you've illuminated your shadow. You looked at it, you knew it, and now it's part of you. Jung says the shadow is only dark when we deny it. When we accept it, it becomes a source of power. Creativity, energy, authenticity, all come from the shadow. You're walking through the trees, and finally you come to where the path splits. But now there's no choice, because the two paths seem merged. Conscious and unconscious have come together, and you continue from there to the main path. But now you're more whole. You leave the forest path, and you find yourself back in the library. In that warm, bright, safe space, you sit back in the chair, the fireplace still burning. Jung across from you, how do you feel? He asks. Breathe. You've reclaimed a part of yourself. A part you hid, suppressed, rejected is now integrated. Jung smiles. Remember, he says, this isn't a one-time process. Shadow work continues throughout life. Every day your shadow will show you new things, and each time you'll have the chance to accept it. Breathe, relax. Now rest, Jung says. Digest the experience you've had inside. When you wake tomorrow, maybe you won't remember all the details, but there will be a change inside. You'll be a bit more compassionate toward yourself. You'll feel a bit more whole. Breathe. Breathe out. Jung stands up, gives you the book. This is yours now, he says. You can open it again when you need it. And slowly Jung blurs, as if disappearing. But his presence is still felt in the room. His wisdom, his compassion, his support. You're sinking deeper into the chair. Your body very heavy. Your mind very calm. Your eyes closed. And you're very close to sleep now. Now rest silently for a while. Just breathe in, breathe out. And carry this deep experience you've had inside. Breathe, breathe out. Now we're moving to the next stage. We've accepted, known, embraced the shadow. But now how will we integrate it in daily life? How will we live with it? One of Jung's most important concepts, the journey of individuation. Breathe. A relaxed, deep breath. You've known your shadow. You've confronted it. You've embraced it. But now the real work begins. Learning to live with the shadow. Jung says knowing the shadow is only the first step. The real work is integrating it into daily life. What does integration mean? It doesn't mean releasing the trait in the shadow. It's not acting uncontrolled. Integration means accepting that trait, understanding it, and consciously managing it. Breathe. Rest. Say there's anger in your shadow. Integration isn't exploding the anger. Integration means this. Yes, I can get angry. This is normal, but I'll express my anger healthily. Say there's weakness in your shadow. Integration isn't collapsing. Yes, I can have weak moments. I can ask for help. This makes me human. As Jung says, the integration of the shadow is the expansion of personality. Breathe. Your body heavy. Your mind calm. Practical suggestions in daily life. Every day express your shadow in small steps. If anger is in your shadow, honestly tell someone, "This bothered me." If playfulness is in your shadow, one day just have fun without planning. If weakness is in your shadow, tell someone, "I'm tired. Could you help?" Small steps will grow over time. Breathe, relax. Jung's quote, "The shadow isn't an enemy, it's a teacher. It teaches us who we are." Breathe. Very deep, very slow. The essence of all Jung's work, individuation. Becoming yourself. Becoming a complete, whole, authentic person. Jung says individuation is the process of becoming fully yourself as you've never been before and will never be again. Most of us aren't ourselves. We're playing a role, wearing a mask. But individuation is finding the real face beneath the mask. Breathe, rest. Individuation begins with integrating the shadow, but it's deeper. It's bringing together all your parts, persona, shadow, all sides together. Jung explains this with a mandala, a circle, a point at its center. Individuation is the journey toward that center. Breathe. Your body very relaxed. Your mind very open. This journey lasts a lifetime. And tonight you took a step on that journey. You knew your shadow. You're now a bit more whole. Jung's last words. Human beings are born to realize their inner potential, and that potential only emerges when we face the darkness. Breathe. Breathe out. You're very close to sleep now. Chapter 8. Closing and transition to sleep. 88-90 minutes. Breathe. Very slow, very deep, very comfortable. Tonight you went on a long journey with Carl Jung. You discovered your shadow. You knew it. You made peace with it. Your shadow is no longer an enemy, but a friend, a teacher, a source of power. Breathe. Breathe out. Jung's library has disappeared. Now there's just a dark, warm, safe space. You're in your bed, comfortable, peaceful, your body very heavy. Can't move at all, and doesn't need to. Your mind very calm. No thoughts. Just peace. Your eyelids like lead, not opening. Don't need to open. What you learned tonight is settling inside. Tomorrow you'll wake a bit different, a bit more whole, a bit freer. Breathe, release, just release. Sleep is coming. Softly, gently, and while sleeping in your dreams, your shadow will be with you, but no longer frightening, now familiar. Breathe. One last deep breath. Jung's last whisper. Darkness isn't the absence of light. It's just light not yet discovered. Good night. Sleep peacefully with your shadow and your whole self. Everything is fine. Everything is as it should be.